November 2nd, 1967, Ryrie, Idaho, 6 feet in diameter craft. Now, this has got to be the oddest.
Hey, Michael, hold on one second. We got a couple of people with open mics, Babette and Matt. If you could mute your microphone. And also, Michael, you have, if you check on participants, you have the ability to mute other people's microphones.
I have the ability to mute. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you're now the host. Ooh, okay. So okay, Babette closed hers, so it's just Matt with his open. Everybody else is closed.
So
sorry to bother you.
No problem. I'll just continue, and I guess we'll close other mics, but that's fine. I don't want to tell people what to do, but we'll continue on here. November 2nd, 1967, Ryrie, Idaho. Personally, I think this is the weirdest case in ufology. The only reason I bring it up is because it's got a very large report to go with it. It's got the flight path, and it's got the sketch of where this took place. So when you put this all together, I felt it was qualified to bring it up. Although personally, I think it's an unbelievable case. It could be true. So these two men are driving down the road. They see this dish-shaped craft go right above the hood of the car and like stays with them for a quarter mile. They come to a stop, and then whatever this craft was, the upper bubble canopy tips up, and one of these beings flies out of this thing. I'm not making this up. This is in the report. He has a backpack on. He's not a very tall guy, okay? So here's the report here, November 2nd. This is an Autobinder report. Near Ryrie, Idaho, the car of Guy Tossey and Will Begay suddenly came to a halt by itself when a small flying saucer and its two humanoid pilots appeared out of nowhere. So that's the scene that we're looking at here. Here's the actual ground layout, and you can see the X here. UFO sighting occurred here November 2nd, 1967. Very detailed drawing of where this actually took place. Here's the original sketch of the sighting. You can see it's 6 feet in diameter. There was a kind of a flame coming out of the bottom of it. And if you look at the detailed drawing here on the lower part, it says head detail. Bottom light appeared at takeoff yellow and looked like a flame. But then he said that his face was very rough. It almost looked like hamburger meat. It sounds weird, but that's what this case talks about. The face of this being was very grooved, you could say. So here's the more cleaned up detail drawing that I did based on the original sketch. So we'll continue on through the case here. So here you can see the being flying out of this bubble canopy dome. He goes over to the driver's car door. He opens up the driver door. I'm not making this up. He gets behind the wheel and starts driving the car another quarter mile down the road. It comes to a halt, and then he makes these bird chirping noises that these guys can't understand. The guy who is in the passenger side is completely panicking. He jumps out of the car. The other guy is still there. And here's what it looked like as this thing is driving the car. I mean, this is just too crazy, but it's in ufology now. It's become legendary. About 3 minutes later, both guys are found later. They're both hysterical. Whatever this thing was, exits the car door, goes back up inside the bubble canopy. The bubble canopy closes, and then this thing flies away with the other being as well. So you've got these two beings that flew away. They were interviewed later, and there's at least a 5-page report interview discussing the entire case. So this is the Ryrie, Idaho case with this being driving this vehicle. Sounds crazy, but it's part of ufology. So I can't make this stuff up. I'm just reporting. July 9th, 1995, Gravois Mills, Missouri. There were about 4 college students that saw this craft. It kind of looked like a thimble with a saucer on top and one at the bottom. And it had these beams of light with these shafts or balls of light going up and down in between these beings. And then in the background, there was a triangular shaped craft associated with this craft. So this is back in 1995. Moving on to the Michelin Man cases. Now, no discussion about UFOs is complete, ladies and gentlemen, unless we cover these Michelin Man cases. They're not fake. They're not made up. They're all around the world. They've been seen by dozens of eyewitnesses. So this is July 31st, 1968, Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean, Michelin Man case. This craft was about 16 feet across. It was a, you could call it an egg-shaped craft with a translucent blue forward and aft section. And then there was this glass or gray pedestal on the bottom, which formed the base. And then a mirror image of that exact base section was on the top as well. So as this gentleman is coming across to pick some green grass and some plants for his rabbits, he sees this craft. He sees these two beings that look just like the Michelin Man. The Michelin Man on the left, when he sees that he's being looked at by the eyewitness, he looks at the one on the right, and then there's this brilliant light, and the craft disappears. 2 weeks later, when investigators get to the area of where this took place, there was residual radioactive effects on the soil. So it's a CE2 because it had physical effects, and it's a CE3 because there were entities involved. Here's the original sketch from the report. So you can see this egg-shaped craft with a base on top, base on bottom with the Michelin Men. Now we'll move on to the second case. March 14th, 1976, Liria Spain. This involves two primary eyewitnesses that had just attended their son's graduating naval ceremony. So they're getting out of this ceremony, they're driving home, it's getting later in the evening, and the wife sees what she describes in the report. It's in the report. She sees this corkscrew of light come out of the ground. And this corkscrew, it transforms into what is described as Sunday night at the Oscars. It looks like one of these Oscars that are handed to the actors on that Sunday night of the Oscars. Looks just like that. Also, it looked like this, again, the Michelin Man, or this guy who was wearing a rubber black colored diving suit with ribs on it. That's what this is described as. We keep hearing these reports of these diving suits with ribs that look like the Michelin Man. As they pass by, the lights on their car flicker. So it's a CE2 case, it's a CE3 case because there's some entity involved. And then as they drive by, the report said that the wife turned around, looked outside the rear window, and saw this thing kind of like looking back at her. Just a very eerie encounter. Here's the actual map of where it took place, and you can see the location of where the sighting actually took place. There's the site there with the arrow, and then this is the original sketch of what this being looked like. So this is the number 2 Michelin Man case. Now, going to the Gray Barker collection in Clarksburg, West Virginia, I dug up, ladies and gentlemen, a 3rd Michelin Man case. Here's what the other eyewitness said. Don Vincente Correll. It was not of this world, but of another. That's the way he described it. All right, so this is December 12th, 1977. This is in France. It was 22 feet across. A young school children, what she actually saw looking outside the kitchen window, because they had the blinds turned across there, she saw this egg-shaped craft. It was red in color. And this being, which is described here, a Michelin-type being, he was wearing a one-piece tight-fitting flight suit that had ribs on it. And then there was this square-shaped helmet he was wearing with a cutout window so he could look outside. And he emerged from this red-colored egg-shaped craft. There were no windows. There were no portholes. There were no seams, no hatches. He just emerged from it. And you can see on this bottom map shows you the locations of where this thing actually landed. After about 5 minutes, he re-emerged into the egg-shaped craft, and then this thing flew away at a very low rate of speed. So this is back in 1977, the 3rd Michelin Man encounter.